Good morning, it's today again. Welcome back to Joseph's Reserves. I'm Joseph and I store 20% of my income in the form of rare coins and precious metals. Today we're putting 6 small gold coins that are viewed differently up against each other. We've got a quarter-ounce American Gold Eagle, a quarter-ounce Britannia, a quarter-ounce South African Krugerrand, an 8-gram Chinese Panda, the British Sovereign, and a $5 Liberty Half Eagle. At first glance, they all seem to compete against one another. They're all roughly the same size. They're about $1,000 if gold was $4,000 per ounce. Many people shopping for their first gold coin find themselves choosing between one of these exact options. But here's the thing, people compare these coins the wrong way. They're usually asking themselves, which is the best? And really, we should start with, how should we compare them? Today I'm going to show you 4 different ways to organize these coins in your head. First with total weight, then actual gold content. I'll get to the alloy of each coin and eventually the premiums and the actual purchase price. By the end of this video, I think you'll agree that there's not necessarily one winner, but I hope you understand why each of these are viewed very differently. Congratulations to Matt M for being the first to comment on yesterday's video. Thank you so much for your support. If you want your name shouted out, make sure you get to the comment section first in this video. Alright, today we're going to be comparing these 6 coins, going over everything that makes them different, why they're priced so differently, and hopefully helping you make a decision on which one should be in your stack. So let's start with the easiest comparison, how much the coins actually weigh. Not just the gold content, but the actual weight of the coin in your hand or when you put it on a scale. The American Gold Eagle and South African Krugerrand both weigh 8.49 grams. The $5 Half Eagle weighs 8.36 grams. The Chinese Panda weighs 8 grams. The British Sovereign also weighs 8 grams. And the Britannia weighs 7.7 grams. Now, if you handed all of these coins to someone who knew nothing about gold, first off, they wouldn't even be able to tell the difference in their hand, but let's say they had a scale and could tell the weight of each coin, they would probably assume that the heaviest coin had the most gold, but that would actually be wrong. These coins all have different alloys. Some contain more copper, some use silver, and some are pure gold. The weight alone doesn't tell the whole story. So let's go ahead and strip away the alloy and look at the actual gold content. I'm going to be talking about this in grams, even though it's traditionally written out in troy ounces. It's just the troy ounces gets a little more muddy and confusing when spoken. So I'll speak the grams and include the grams and ounces on the screen. And now we can see here that the Chinese Pandas actually have the most gold at 8 grams. The Krugerrand, Britannia, and American Eagle all are a quarter of an ounce at 7.77 grams. Then the British Sovereign is 7.32 grams, and the Half Eagle $5 coin is 7.52. I'm now realizing in the editing that the Sovereign and Half Eagle are in swapped places, but the numbers associated to them are correct. So really focus on those, not just the placement of the coins. Now, if you're paying attention, you'll see that some of these coins changed the weight versus the actual gold weight very dramatically, and that has to do with the purity of the alloy. On screen, we have pure gold, 22 karat, and even a 90% gold coin. Even within these categories, there are nuances that make each of these coins slightly different. The first comparison we're going to make is the American Gold Eagle and the South African Gold Krugerrand. On paper, these coins are identical. They're both 22 karat. They both have exactly 1/4 of an ounce of gold, which means they both weigh 8.48 grams. So what's the difference here? It's the specific alloy used. While they're both 22 karat, which is 91.67% gold, the Eagle has 3% silver. That gives the Eagle a slightly brighter, richer yellow color that collectors really love. And with a balance of copper, the Krugerrands have a very famous reddish orange tone. The Krugerrand was created in 1976 in South Africa to actually circulate as a currency. That means it was designed to be much more durable. The American Gold Eagle followed in 1986 with a similar 22 karat. These were really just meant to be a callback to circulating coins, not really meant to circulate themselves. Now let's move to pure gold coins. This comparison is really 3 nines versus 4 nines. The Chinese Panda is 3 nines or 99.9% gold, and the Britannia is 4 nines or 99.99% gold. And while it's not really a huge difference, it does make a difference in the market. It's an actual difference of only 0.1% in purity, but the perception matters the most. For decades, 22 karat bullion coins dominated the market. The government began producing extremely pure bullion coins. These Chinese pandas and coins like the Canadian maple leaf were among the pioneers of these modern pure bullion coins. Later, the maple leaf fully pushed its purity to 4 nines, and over time that 4 nines purity became the benchmark that many governments adopted over time. Today, many buyers see 4 nines as the premium standard. Even though 3 nines gold is still essentially pure gold, many investors subconsciously view it as slightly less desirable because the market has embraced this 4 nines purity. Really, this is just an example of how perception influences the value. But if we talk specifically about the Chinese Panda, here in America, there are opinions on Chinese bullion, and it's pretty mixed. Some stackers don't want Chinese issued gold at all. Whether that's because of geopolitical concerns, personal preference, or desire to stick with Western sovereign mints, it does mean that the future buyer pool could be a little bit smaller than comparison with an American Eagle or a Britannia. On the other hand, these metric denominated pandas have become a little bit more interesting recently. With a more limited exports from China in the recent years, they've become a little bit less common in Western markets, and that scarcity has helped support a demand among collectors and buyers who might like metric bullion. Next, I want to compare the Sovereign with the $5 Half Eagle and the South African Krugerrand. Most people will directly compare the British Sovereign and the American Pre-33 Half Eagle, but really it's a lot more like the South African Krugerrand. While they're both 22 karat, the Sovereign is 8 grams and the South African Krugerrand is about 8.5 grams. And they actually use the same exact alloy of 22 karat with the balance of copper. However, the American $5 Half Eagle is 90% gold and 10% copper. America actually transitioned from 22 karat to 90% gold in 1837. So it is actually possible to find American coins that circulated that were 22 karat. However, those won't really be sold as bullion. Those would be highly numismatic these days. Let's go ahead and move on to the actual premium and what these coins would cost. Right now, a 1/4 ounce American Gold Eagle would have about an 8% premium, while the Britannia would have about 7%, the Panda about 6.5%, and the Krugerrand 6%. Now, the circulating coins down at the bottom are usually sold around a 3% premium. And if I rearrange these to their actual sell price based on the amount of gold that is in these coins, it looks a little bit more like this. Assuming a $4,000 gold price, the Panda would be about $1,095, the American Gold Eagle about $1,080, Britannia about $1,070, the Krugerrand about $1,060, the $5 Half Eagle at $997, and the Sovereign at $970. So the question becomes, which one should I actually buy? Honestly, I don't think there's a wrong answer. If you want America's flagship bullion coin, then buy the Eagle. If you want a classic world bullion with a reasonable premium, then the Krugerrand is hard to beat. If you love pure gold and modern security features, then the Britannia is an excellent choice. If you like metric gold or want to speculate on the premium of the Chinese Panda based off of Chinese exports, then the Panda is a great option. If history fascinates you, then the British Sovereign is one of the greatest gold coins ever struck. But if you want a piece of American circulating coinage, then it's hard to beat the $5 Half Eagle. The biggest takeaway isn't which coin wins, it's understanding that these coins were never trying to accomplish the same exact thing. Each one reflects a different country's history, different minting philosophies, and a different approach to owning and minting gold. Once you understand that, choosing between them becomes a whole lot easier. Or if you're like me, you just want one of each. If you enjoyed this comparison, make sure you go down and hit the like button and let me know down in the comments. Share the video with someone you think may like it and subscribe if you haven't already. To my long-term subscribers, thank you so much for your continual support, and make sure you go to josephsreserves.com to check out my merchandise, my zip-up bags, the coffee mug, and the It's Today Again coffee. But most of all, thank you so much for watching, and just remember, every ounce adds up, so no matter how small, just keep stacking.